Have you ever noticed something strange? Imagine a trader who has spent the last year learning everything possible about trading, reading books, watching countless videos, learning new strategies, studying charts every single day. Yet today their results look almost the same as they did a year ago. Does that automatically mean they're not working hard enough? Not necessarily. Sometimes the problem isn't a lack of effort. The problem is that our effort is scattered in too many directions. One day we're working on risk management. The next day we're focusing on trading psychology. A few days later we're changing our entry strategy. And by next week we're chasing an entirely new system. It feels like we're constantly learning. But in reality we're simply moving from one thing to another without making meaningful progress in any of them. And that's exactly why, even after months of hard work, improvement often feels painfully slow. If you've ever felt like you're learning a lot about trading, but somehow you're still not moving forward, then today's lesson could be one of the most important lessons you'll ever learn. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Priya, and today, we're diving into another powerful lesson from the book, The Daily Trading Coach. Lesson number 34. Set effective goals. Now when most people hear the word goals, they immediately think about profit targets, making a certain amount each month, achieving a specific annual return, growing their account by a certain percentage. But the goal discussed in this lesson goes much deeper than that. This lesson teaches you how to structure improvement itself. So you're not just working hard, you're actually making progress. Because the truth is, most traders don't get stuck because they don't know what to learn. They get stuck because their focus never stays in one place long enough. They try to fix everything at once. They want to eliminate fear, control greed, improve risk management, build discipline, perfect their entries, and become consistently profitable, all at the same time. But when we try to improve everything simultaneously, we often end up improving nothing. Think about it. If someone tried to learn guitar, master swimming, learn a new language, and train for a marathon, all at the same time, would they achieve mastery in any one area quickly? Probably not. Because there's a simple rule of growth. When energy is divided, progress slows down. When energy is concentrated, improvement accelerates. And that's the most important message of this entire lesson. Self-coaching doesn't begin with a new strategy. Self-coaching begins with clarity. It begins with identifying the single issue that is hurting your trading the most right now, and then working on that one issue until meaningful improvement becomes visible. This is also why many self-improvement programs fail after just a few days. People begin with tremendous enthusiasm, but soon, their attention shifts to another problem, then another, and gradually their efforts become scattered. The people who truly change work differently. They choose one skill at a time. They measure it, work on it consistently, gather feedback, identify mistakes, and slowly transform that skill into a strength. That's what real learning looks like. Because learning isn't simply collecting information. Learning is creating change. And change happens when knowledge is repeatedly put into practice. Think back to the first time you learned how to ride a bicycle. Did you learn simply by watching someone else? Of course not. You probably fell, lost your balance, made mistakes, and struggled repeatedly. But with every attempt, your brain learned something new. Eventually what once felt difficult became natural. Trading works exactly the same way. And to explain this idea, the author gives a fascinating example. Imagine arriving in a city you've never visited before. You've already studied the map. You know the names of the major roads. You understand the general layout. But does looking at a map mean you truly know the city? Not at all. Real understanding comes when you walk those streets yourself. Take wrong turns. Get lost occasionally. Read signs. Notice landmarks. And gradually develop a mental picture of how everything connects. Only then does the city become part of your experience. And trading improvement works in exactly the same way. The real meaning of self-coaching is simple. Choose one clear goal and stay focused on it until it becomes a habit. Remember, motivation gives you the energy to move forward, but goals give you the direction to move in. So if you've identified a recurring problem pattern in your trading, that's already a great first step. but simply recognizing a mistake isn't enough. To change that mistake, you need to create a clear and specific goal. For example, let's say you've noticed that you often make impulsive trading decisions. What should your goal be? The goal shouldn't be, I won't be impulsive anymore. That's too vague. Instead, your goal should be something concrete and measurable. For example, before every trade, I will pause for 30 seconds and write down my reason for entering. Or, every morning, I will review my top 3 trading rules before the market opens. The key point is this: goals should not be based on wishes. They should be clear, specific actions that you can actually follow. Now think about this. A professional trader's primary goal is not simply to make money. Instead, they focus on the small daily actions that eventually lead to profits. Many traders say, my goal is to make millions, or my goal is to become a full-time trader. But those are outcomes. The real question is, what are you doing today to make those outcomes possible? That's what a process goal is. And this is one of the most important lessons in trading. You do not have complete control over market results, but you do have complete control over your decision-making process. That's why your daily goal should be simple. Follow your best trading setups. Respect your trading rules. Execute with discipline. Manage risk consistently. And focus on doing the right things, trade after trade. When the process becomes strong, the results eventually follow, and in the long run, money becomes the byproduct of discipline, consistency, and sound decision making. When you become your own trading coach, your focus should be on breaking your trading process into smaller parts, dividing it into individual skills, and then improving those skills one at a time. Now ask yourself, what small change could create the biggest improvement in your trading? The answer usually comes from your process goals. For example, if you've noticed that your best trades happen when you're patient, then a good goal might be, before entering any trade, I will confirm the setup on both the 3-minute and 15-minute charts. Or perhaps you've realized that your biggest problem is overtrading. In that case, your goal might be, I will take a maximum of 3 trades per day and record the reason for each trade in my journal. Notice something important. A goal shouldn't be too broad, but it shouldn't be too narrow either. It should be specific enough that you can work on it every day, and meaningful enough that it can improve your trading over time. Ideally, it's a goal you can consistently practice for the next several weeks, because every behavior takes time to become a habit, and it's daily repetition that eventually creates lasting change. This is where many traders make a mistake. They expect improvement after just a few days. But real progress doesn't happen overnight. It comes from repeatedly practicing the right behaviors until they become automatic. That's why process goals are so powerful. They keep your attention on the actions that are fully within your control. So once again, remember this. Your focus should not be on the outcome. Your focus should be on the process. Not on how much money you make today, but on whether you followed your plan. Not on whether a trade was a winner or a loser, but on whether you executed it correctly. Because when you consistently improve the process, the results eventually take care of themselves. Friends, up to this point, we've learned that simply identifying trading patterns isn't enough. We also need to set clear goals to improve those patterns. But there's another important lesson here. You cannot work on too many goals at the same time. Many traders think, I need to become more disciplined. I need to control my emotions. I need to cut losses faster. I need to improve my risk management. And while all of those goals may be important, trying to improve everything at once usually leads to improving nothing at all. When you run in every direction simultaneously, you rarely make meaningful progress in any direction. That's why one of the best approaches is to focus on just 1 to 3 goals at a time. And those goals should be the ones that can have the biggest impact on your trading performance. Now you might be wondering, how do I know which goal will have the greatest impact? There's actually a very simple exercise. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you've already become the trader you want to be. A trader who generates consistent profits, makes decisions with confidence, stays disciplined under pressure, and approaches the market with clarity and patience. Now picture that trader's daily routine. How do they prepare for the market? How do they manage risk? How do they handle losing trades? How do they respond to uncertainty? What habits do they practice every day? Now compare that version of yourself to the trader you are today. Where is the gap? What's different? Which habits are missing? Which behaviors need to change? That gap will often reveal the most important goal you should be working on right now. And those goals become the foundation of effective self-coaching. Because they aren't goals you've chosen randomly. They're goals that come from a clear vision of who you want to become. And when goals are connected to a meaningful vision, the motivation to pursue them becomes much stronger. There's another important idea the author emphasizes. If you want to grow faster as a trader, you need to stay close to the people you want to learn from. Start observing successful traders. The traders who have survived for years in the market. The ones who have experienced major losses, learned from them, recovered, and eventually became consistently profitable. You don't have to know them personally. You don't even have to meet them. But you can learn from the way they think. You can study their habits, observe their discipline, listen to their interviews, read their books, study their routines, and pay attention to the principles that guide their decisions. Most importantly, whenever you discover a habit that inspires you, turn it into a small, actionable goal for yourself. For example, if a successful trader says that they spend 30 minutes meditating before the market opens, you don't have to copy the habit exactly. You can create a simplified version that works for you. Maybe your goal becomes, I will sit quietly for 10 minutes before the market opens to clear my mind and prepare for the trading session. That's how real growth begins, not by copying successful people blindly, but by adapting their best habits into actions that fit your own process. So remember this, your next breakthrough may come from a single habit you've learned from someone who's already achieved what you're striving for. Keep learning, keep refining your process, and keep focusing on small improvements that compound over time. Because in trading, success isn't built in one big moment. It's built through hundreds of small disciplined actions repeated day after day. If you found this lesson valuable, don't forget to hit the like button. And for more practical lessons on trading psychology, discipline, and consistent performance, make sure to subscribe to the Master Trading Psychology channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.